Until I co-founded Translators Without Borders, I spent my whole life almost giving. When I was at university, I almost joined a crisis line. Later on, I almost became a big sister. And then when I moved to France, I almost read books for the blind. But I was always too busy running my business, raising my son. Almost giving didn't end until 1993, when our neighbor, Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, approached us and asked us for a quote on a translation project. Doctors Without Borders does such great work that I asked them, well, if we don't charge you for the work, for the translation, is that like a donation to your work? And if we did, what would you do with the money? And they said, we will totally put that money into work in the field. And I thought, great. So finally, I wasn't almost giving, I was doing something that was really, really helping. Translation is critical to NGOs or non-governmental organizations so they can communicate with all of their stakeholders, whether it's their donors, their staff, or the people they're helping. Médecins du Monde might come to us because they need to translate for their international staff the new neonatal treatment protocol. Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, might come to us because there's a humanitarian crisis going on somewhere in the world and they need to make the worldwide community, they need to tell the worldwide community what's going on so that they can send help. Like in the early days of Haiti, every day we were translating reports to the world of where help was needed, what kind of help was needed. Oxfam might need to reach out to their donors so they could come to us with a donor document, something explaining their activities. AMREF in Africa might need to make sure that the people they're trying to reach in the communities and the rural communities understand the information that they're giving them on how to protect themselves from AIDS, how to protect themselves from cholera or malaria. Goodplanet.org might come to us with a translation for their website so that they can reach the millions and millions of people in Indonesia and talk to them about protecting their forests. It's clear that without translation, NGOs can't communicate effectively, whether it's with their international staff, their international donors, or the people they're helping. Translation is essential. Sometimes there's just no budget for it. So where there is no budget, Translators Without Borders provides free translations of information that normally would never be translated and needs to be translated, is important to be translated. Where there is a budget, the free translations that we provide them means that they can put that budget to other work in the field. And in fact, that's one of our requirements for accepting a new humanitarian organization. The question that we ask them is, if we don't charge you for this translation, what will you do with the money that you save? And in fact, we find that every dollar that NGOs save on their translations is another dollar that's available for work in the field. And that's so important to us. Another way we help NGOs is that we also help them raise more money for their work in the field. We help them raise more funding by letting them reach out to international donors. If I could just give you an example, a grassroots African NGO might come to us, and we can translate their website into English, for example, and that way they can reach out to the world. They can tell their story and hopefully attract the funding they need to do their grassroots work. We donate literally hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in humanitarian translations, and that makes us feel great. I mean, that is great. And the volunteers around the world who are responsible for that, the professional translators who give their time at the end of a busy day where they're doing their professional translations, their commercial work, their paid work, to donate time at the end of the day or on the weekends to work for Translators Without Borders is so impressive, and it really helps. It helps NGOs extend their work and do more, which is wonderful. But you know, we are just touching the smallest fraction of the need that's out there. We're helping literally maybe 1%. Maybe 1% of the humanitarian organizations who need our help. So it's very, very important to us to be able to scale up our activities. The irony is that on the one hand there's this huge need, huge number of NGOs who need our help, and on the other hand there is a translator community that is so willing to do these sorts of translations. In between these two we had a bottleneck, and that bottleneck was project management. That's been our big focus, is to get rid of that bottleneck. So this year Prose.com, the largest translator community on earth, has helped us immensely get rid of this project management bottleneck. They've put 4 full-time programmers and a full-time project manager on the case, programming for us a translation center that automates a lot of the tasks that really do not need a human intervention. They don't need a human bottleneck. Thanks to this translation center, this automated platform, we can add 100 new NGOs right now. And this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of being able to scale up, to do more, to help more non-governmental organizations in more languages. And that's our second big goal, is to extend the range of languages that we do. Our big challenge in the future is to expand into the languages of the developing world, local languages. When I was in Kenya in November, I noticed that in the rural villages, where people had a lot of healthcare issues, I saw orphans who were HIV positive, villagers who were HIV positive, adults who were HIV positive, people were malnourished, especially in a season with bad rains. They were subject to so many diseases, cholera and malaria. So, in other words, people who have a much bigger disease burden than we do, who need access to healthcare information even more than we do. And I was just scandalized to see that the only information they had access to was in English. That was a language that English is just not a language that they speak in the rural villages. And so our next big challenge is to bring together translators in local languages, to help mentor translators in local languages, so that they can translate this essential information for people in the poorest countries in the world. So that's our next big challenge, delivering translations in Kiswahili, in Nepali, in Hindu, in the important languages of the developing world. Our big task right now is to find the funds to hire an executive director who can drive these initiatives forward, who can help us meet our goal of translating more humanitarian words in more languages for more NGOs. Then we'll be truly translating for humanity.